what I remember once, where the prince and the king, as you know, was very peculiar about the sort of food that he wanted, well, his family and the staff to eat. As Mervyn rightly said, he believed that, the army marched on its stomach. And I know that's true. But as William got older, of course, and he was very keen to go to burger bars and pizza places that didn't really sit that comfortably with his father. And I remember coming back from the pizza place and the burger bar in Kensington High Street, which was with the Bill Wyman's place, the Rolling Stones.
Sticky Fingers.
Sticky Fingers. And William came back and the Prince was there. And he said, oh, where have you been? He said, oh, Papa, he said, we just had these amazing burgers, and he said, and there was this sort of look of disdain that came across the Prince's face. And he said, I don't know why you eat that food when I have this marvellous army of chefs at Kensington Palace. But, I think he probably now realises that's how it was in the late 80s, early 90s, that but Diana sort of really wanted to experiment away from Mervyn's food at the palace at that time.
We know that Charles is not peculiar, but he's very picky about his food.
Yeah.
Would Diana order different things to Charles? How would it work?
No. Well, the menus were always done, and favourites were always put in, sort of thing. And but you were saying with the burger incident, it was a treat for the boys. They really didn't often do that sort of thing because all of their friends used to do it. Yeah. But other than that, they stuck at home and had things. And they were real nursery food. It was the old treacle tarts and things like that.
When you were there, were Charles and Diana treated to things like caviar or foie gras or anything like that?
No, I'm saying only if they came in as gifts. Foie gras was out of bounds until...
Right.
And things like that. But caviar would be given as gift, and that would be used very liberally if it ever came across the door. It's very nice.
You mentioned earlier, Ken, that Diana would sometimes come down in Kensington Palace. Is this right? Did I hear right? And she would maybe eat in the kitchen with you.
Yes.
Did that happen regularly? Did you have a lot of time with them, members of the royal family?
The princess spent a lot of time in the kitchen. In fact, reading The Sun,
really?
Which wasn't allowed in the house.
You smuggled it in?
My maid.
Your maid, yeah. Well, that's quite a regular thing, Matt. I think it was part of Diana's character because she had this sort of very friendly approach to all members of her staff, actually. And, the kitchen, like in everyone's house, really is a focal meeting point for life. And, Diana would often say to me, what are you doing? I say, well, come down, we're going to have a coffee with Mervyn or something. And there would be a right place to exchange effectively local gossip within the household. But so it was quite a good place to exchange.
It was who was doing what,
information.
Who was going where. Well, that's a lot of these houses survive on people talking to each other. Did you know the boss was doing so-and-so? Did you know they were there? No, and... Of course, these things make a lot of difference. And talking to the chauffeurs and people like that.
I just think they're interesting about other things. I suddenly came across my mind, Mervyn, was with the shooting parties at Sandringham. Mm-hmm. So the chef there, the kitchen there, would prepare the lunch for the royal shooting party that would often go in one of the shooting lodges on the estate. Yeah. What always made me laugh was that all this sort of wonderful food being prepared to be taken up in hampers to the shooting lodge. Then if you looked out of the kitchen window, you'd have the beaters and the gamekeepers on the backs of tractors. And Mervyn and others would knock up this massive great stew. Do you remember this soup?
Yeah.
So you had, by comparison, you had this wonderful produce going out of the shooting lodge, and yet there were buckets of this stew, which actually, I must say, it was brilliant.
Exactly.
And
it was warm and tasty.
It was, with chunks of bread,
You guys are making me feel hungry now, actually. I think we should have bought some lunch or bought some croissants or something like this for this. But Charles, before we move on, Charles must, as I say, he's a foodie, or he's really into his food, his organic produce.
Yes.
I mean, was that hammered into you as his chef that this is how he wanted his food to be cooked?
I mean, there was nothing ever said, but it was an absolute fact that we all knew that that's what he enjoyed, and it was. You just carry on from there.
Is there anything? Oh, sorry.
No. I think that where I witnessed, his particular interest in food, because at Highgrove there was a very sizable vegetable garden, a walled vegetable garden, and it was, you know, immaculately and brilliantly maintained by, you know, a fleet of gardeners. And and this is something that the Prince, you know, really loved, and we all know just his interest in gardening. I mean, one of the first things he ever did at Highgrove, before my time, admittedly, was the thyme path. He was a great user of fresh herbs, but the actual garden itself, he would go down with, you know, the sort of the wooden basket and select certain vegetables for him and return back to the kitchen. So, you know, that was clearly evidence of his, you know, liking of good quality food, and something that even to this day that he has a special interest in. And, you know, would very much discuss, I think, with you what was, you know, current produce in the garden.
Yes, well, what's coming up, and he would always see, he would take great notice and interest. And as you said, he'd bring his trug back with all the little bits of carrots and whatever, and have
the word I was searching for.
Trug.
Sorry. The royal trug.
What does that mean?
It's the wooden basket, the gardener's basket. And he'd always have the fresh veg, which he literally just picked, and he would have that with his dinner 10 minutes later. It's a bit of a worry where he rushes upstairs to change, comes back down, and it's all ready. But
if I've heard you right there, Charles would go out and pick his own vegetables.
Oh yeah, yes, yeah, just a few for dinner. That was it. If he was on his own, His Royal Highness is very, very keen on a good breakfast and all the compots of fruit and very that sort of thing, mueslis and Her Royal Highness as well. But then there'd be lunch. Tea was just a cup of tea. It was never a full-blown like Her Majesty the Queen used to have, with cakes and things like that, and scones for the corgis. And then dinner at 8 o'clock.
Scones for the corgis?
Oh, absolutely.
What would be on the menu if you cast your mind back to the 80s with Charles and
Maybe
Diana?
it was always, as I said, stuff the grouse and the salmon, and I used as much as possible. And of course, it all depended if the guests were coming, and then we'd find out. We had a regular sort of coming of certain people, and you got to know exactly what these guests like, and certain dishes. So I'd always make sure that these went on when these people were arriving, and it was just got used to It was simple, but it was all there. So.
You talked about making food for guests. Did you make food for the dogs, or was it?
Yes, yeah,
Really?
yes. Oh, God, yes. Got to feed the dogs.
Please tell us a little bit about that.
Oh, well, no, it's just very simple. I must say, Her Majesty the Queen's dogs, they really were well looked after, but ours were a little more simplistic, and because we're always on the go,